Very kind of excited and honored this morning to introduce Brad, who's going to be giving our message. Brad has been part of our community for like a year and a half, around a year and a half. A great person, a great friend of ours. We've been really blessed by him being a part of our community. He has just a testimony that I know many people in this room know. We've spent time praying for Brad and his late wife, Dani. And just the journey that they were on in the last few months. But we're just incredibly grateful that he wants to come, he wants to share just some amazing things that God has done in his life, some ways that God has been faithful through some really difficult times. And I don't want to give too much away, so I won't say much more than that, but just honored and excited to have him share with us this morning. So please help me welcome Brad as he shares this morning.
I wanted to start this morning by sharing a bit of the story of how I got here today. And telling you a story about Dani, of course. So cast your mind back to February 2022. The Rams had just beaten the Bengals in a great Super Bowl. We were treated to a great halftime show with Dr. Dre, Eminem, and more. It was so good that even the Bengals kicker skipped the halftime team talk to watch the halftime show. And if you were in Boston, you may remember it was covered in snow. The Charles was partially frozen over. I was in the original, the OG Cambridge, and Dani was here in Cambridge, Massachusetts for a work trip. And I was talking to Dani during that week about how the trip was going. She'd only been here a few days. She arrived on a Friday and she spent the weekend exploring the city, walking miles and miles, which was slightly confusing to me because if you've ever met Dani, if you've spoken to Dani, you know that the cold was not her thing. You know, maybe like fall at a push when you get those kind of slightly warm days, or maybe at a real stretch like a winter's day where the sun's out and it doesn't feel quite as cold. But when there's snow on the ground, there's snow falling and there's ice everywhere at 0 degrees, like you would not catch Dani outside. She would be hibernating. So I was shocked to hear that she'd walked 20,000 steps, she'd done the Freedom Trail, and she was telling me how amazing it was, how she enjoyed it. And I was thinking, wow, Boston must be incredible. If Dani has come here and loved this place in the snow and the freezing temperatures, it must be the best place on earth. And I think after living here for just over a year, I can see where she was coming from. But during one of our calls that week, Dani mentioned that there might be an opportunity to move to Boston with her work, that she could transfer to the office out in Waltham. And I won't lie to you and say that I immediately was like, yeah, let's go. Because my immediate thought was, we have a great life here back in Cambridge. We had great friends just around the corner. We had a great church community that we were part of. Had a great job. We had a lovely house. We were really settled. But I just kept coming back to that thought, like if Dani really loves this place, and the snow, and the rain, and the cold, it must be a really awesome place. So after doing some research and after praying about it, we decided, hey, let's go for it. If we're not going to do this now, then when are we going to do it? It took nearly a year of paperwork and visas, which seems appropriate for Dani and I. Life seems to be full of those things. But in January 2023, we moved to Boston. Cambridge, actually. We left one Cambridge for the other, just to keep it consistent and not confuse people too much. But then in February, after being here maybe just over a week, again in the freezing cold, we first came to Reunion. And at that point, life was great. We were so excited to explore this new city, this new country, to make new friends. All the possibilities lay ahead. Standing here today, though, all that hope and anticipation has been ripped away. Dani had a year-long battle with breast cancer, triple-negative breast cancer, and on March 11th, she passed away. And I'm now having to plan to leave this life that we were building here and go back to England and back to that old life, I guess, without Dani. And that will be sometime in July.
So looking back now to February 2022, this, where I find myself right now, couldn't be any further from how I imagined our time in Boston would come to an end, or an end for this season. Hopefully I'll be back in the future, who knows. But in this season of pain and heartbreak and life just being completely turned upside down, I am grateful to have the opportunity to share with you all today. And I thank Nathan and Matt and the elders here at Reunion for giving me this opportunity, for trusting with me to share this morning. And it's my hope as I share this story this morning and tell you some stories about Dani and how our faith has been impacted in this season of immense challenge. It's my hope that it can encourage you in your faith journey and in your walk. Because I truly believe that if Dani and I didn't have this faith, we wouldn't have even been able to face anything that happened in this last year, let alone make what in some ways was the best of the time we had here in Boston. I know that despite the doubts and the anger and the fear that Dani experienced as she went through that journey, that her journey of battling with her breast cancer diagnosis inspired many people with the way that she faced it. And I know that a large reason that she was able to do that was because of the faith that she had. So this morning I want to share a message with you all that I've titled, Faith is in Between. Faith is in between. And as I said, it's my hope as we look at Isaiah 43 together this morning to encourage you that no matter what situations life throws at you, that God, despite how we might feel in those situations, never leaves us. I've learned a lot about my own faith and about God in this past year, but probably the biggest thing that I've learned is there is often a big difference between how we feel about God and what we know about God. How we feel emotionally about our faith and what we can know about our faith. And so this morning I'd love us to explore what that looks like. In a moment we're going to read together from Isaiah 43. The words will hopefully come up on the screen behind me so you can follow along, or you can follow along if you have a Bible or your phone with you and you want to follow along in that way. But back in January 2022, I shared a message based on Isaiah 43 with our young adults ministry back in the OG Cambridge church there. And when I was thinking today about how to bring together all the thoughts that were swirling around in my head, I was reminded of this message. And I think it's fitting that this morning as we talk about, and we will talk about the idea that our faith, or we talk about what our faith is built on, that in this season of doubt and uncertainty, we're going to go back to something that was written in what I guess we'd describe as the good times. It's an illustration of how important it is that we set the foundations on our lives on something solid, so that when the difficult seasons come, we have something to fall back on. So Isaiah 43. If we think of the Bible as the story of God and his people, then at this point in the Bible where we are reading Isaiah or God's words through Isaiah, we could define God's people as the people of Israel, the descendants of Jacob who was renamed Israel. And this group of people had been chosen by God. God chose them to partner with, and ultimately the plan was to use them to bring the whole of humanity back into relationship with him. But this is, I guess, one of the many low points in Israel's story, God's people, their story, because they've been exiled from their homeland. They were scattered in captivity all around the Babylonian Empire. And it's here in this context that we read the words of God speaking through Isaiah. This is Isaiah 43, and I read verse 1 and 2. But now, this is what the Lord says. He who created you, Jacob, he who formed you, Israel. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. What stands out to me in this passage, amongst other things, but what primarily stands out, is that how these people, despite being God's chosen people, that they don't get to go around the waters. They don't get to cross a nice bridge over the rivers. They don't get to put the fire out and then cross over. They're told they will pass through, that they will walk through. Sometimes it's easy to get caught up in thinking that the Christian life is the easy life. That if you just have enough faith, God will make everything in your life perfect. Sadly, if you've been told that, you've been told a lie. Just look at God's people here. These are God's people, lost in captivity. Look around this room. I know I'm not the only one, the only Christian to have experienced the pain and the agony of losing a loved one. Going through these seasons in life will undoubtedly make you ask the big questions. And especially for me, I know the big question has been, where is God in all this? Where is God in all this? God here, though, through Isaiah, tells us that when the toughest seasons come, the metaphorical rivers, waters, fires that we go through, that God is with us. And if I take God at his word here, and I do, I can now know that in this season God is with me. It's just that most of the time of late, it doesn't feel like that. I know God is with me, but it doesn't always feel like that. But faith is in between. Faith is in between. Recently, I went to visit some friends, James and Bryony in Tennessee. And Dani and I knew them from back home in Cambridge. We were actually witnesses at their wedding. They're now living in Tennessee, and I went to visit them. And it was so fun to just hang out with them and their 5 kids. Just the joy of children was amazing. To talk about Dani, to share stories, reminisce about life, the shared experiences that we had, to ponder what might be ahead, to be encouraged by their faith as they chatted to me about faith. And James has actually been writing a lot of haikus lately. It's like a creative outlet. And he shared one with me that I want to share with you today. Knowing Yahweh can is not believing he will. Faith is in between. Yahweh, which simply translates as I am, is a name that God uses to describe himself to Moses in the Hebrew Bible, and it's used throughout. Yahweh. Knowing Yahweh can is not believing he will. Faith is in between. And this really spoke to me and described exactly how I was feeling in many ways. And I think it also struck me because it described, I think, how Dani felt often as she went through the treatment. We both knew, based on what we had read and what we had seen happen to other people, that God can miraculously heal in a moment. But as the treatment went on, as the cancer came back, it was harder and harder to believe that he would. How do we navigate this space between knowing and believing? When we know God can heal, but we don't believe or feel like he will. Or when we know God is with us, but we just don't feel that Holy Spirit presence with us in certain moments. As well as the haiku, when we were driving to the airport, James shared a story with me about some advice Dani had given him when he first became a Christian. And apparently I was there when she said this, but I don't remember. But James told me the story, which I think is really fitting. He was a new Christian at the time, and he was asking many of the questions that I'm sure lots of us have, trying to grapple with how, in a world where we believe there is a good God, how there can be so much pain and suffering and evil that's around us. And how do we navigate that? And he told me that Dani turned to him and shared 5 words that he remembers to this day whenever he's talking about a difficult subject when it comes to faith. Dani just turned to him and said, James, I just love Jesus. James, I just love Jesus. And when he told me this, I basically just broke down crying, because I could imagine the exact face that Dani pulled, the exact tone that she had as she said it. It's just so Dani. Uncomplicated, direct, to the point, but filled with love. Why do we have to go through the waters? Why can't we cross that nice bridge over them? Why do we need to go through the fire? It's easy to focus so much on the why, but my encouragement and my advice to you and to myself today is to remember Dani's words. Just love Jesus. God could help us avoid the waters. He could put out the fire, but instead he goes through it with us. Why? No idea. Perhaps one day get to have a chat with Jesus and ask him to explain all of this. But for right now, all I can do is remember Dani's words, just love Jesus. So with that in mind, I wanted to share a couple of practical ways that we can do that. How can we practically hold on to our faith and continue to love Jesus in the middle of these difficult seasons? And the first thing that I wanted to highlight is community. Community. When we read Isaiah 43, you may have noticed that God was speaking to the whole people of Israel. Not just one person, but the whole community. So often in our individualized society, we can make the mistake of thinking that we can do faith alone. But that was never God's design. We are made for community. Community like reunion. Reunion has been a huge blessing for Dani and I couldn't have imagined navigating this year without this community. One of the most difficult things and biggest decisions around moving was the worry of finding a new church, a community that we could be part of. But I thank God that we found reunion. And I think it's important here to clarify that we're not talking about the organization or the charity or the org chart of reunion, but the people. The people. Because after all, reunion is us. We are reunion. The church has never been and will never be just an abstract organization. It's the people. It's Nathan and Emily who invited us around for dinner pretty much the first time that we met. It's Matt who welcomed us to reunion, told us the whole story, and invited us to be part of it. It's Eliza who took us for coffee and helped us move house. It's Matt and Abby who open their home every week to host community group and faithfully pray for us. It's Michelle and Daniel who organised tickets for us to go and see the Taylor Swift tour at the cinema. If anyone wants to outdo them and organise the Eras tour tickets, I'll be in Europe in July, just to say. It's all of you who faithfully stood with us in prayer again and again and again. Some of you that are around in February this year might recall that one service, this was a few weeks after Dani had been taken ill again, you spent time to write cards to Dani and I. Mostly to Dani, obviously. And these cards were, and in Dani's words, filled with prayers and encouragement. That season after she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer was undoubtedly the hardest time of her life. She had been told that whatever time she did have left, which was uncertain how long it would be filled with chemo. That perhaps it wouldn't be long, but however long it was, it would be filled with trips to the hospital, with going through chemotherapy again. But in this season, these cards, as simple as they may be, helped her hold on to her faith. She was angry with God, we both were. She expressed that, but these cards changed something. And in her journal around that time, she wrote this: "The community at Reunion is one we've only known for a year, but man, they have been a blessing. Card after card filled with prayers and love. I'm forever grateful for this community." And I'm so grateful that God led us here before Dani became ill, because I don't know how we would have navigated this season without this community. And in the midst of that most difficult and dark time, and continually for me now, this community has showed up. But those cards meant so much to Dani. It was a great example of what community is, what church is. It so inspired her that she wrote in her journal that she wanted to stick around to give back to Reunion because of the way that she'd been blessed. Sadly, she won't be able to give back in the ways that she was probably thinking that day. But I hope that in some small way, today's message could be the start of Dani giving back to Reunion. Even if it can just inspire one person who might be on the edge right now, maybe thinking, I don't know if this church thing, this community thing's really for me. If If it could just inspire one person to get plugged in, to stay part of it, then it would be a great testament to Dani's faith. This is a special community, and I hope that you're all encouraged today to be more connected and be part of it. Because community is a key part of how we hold on to our faith in the fires and the waters. We all go through difficult seasons, but when we do, we have a community around us that we can rely on to be our strength when we don't have it, to provide the prayers when we can't find the words, to encourage us when we're discouraged, to give us direction when we feel lost. Community really does help us love Jesus. Coming back to Isaiah 43, we're going to read from verses 16 to 21. One of my favorite Bible teachers is a guy called Tim Mackey, who works with the Bible Project, which is an animation studio out in Portland, Oregon. And one of the things that he always talks about is how the Bible, for his early readers, would have been something that they knew back to front, front to back, inside and out. They knew everything. So as they were reading, they would know what stories were being alluded to and the bigger context. And he always talks about this idea of uploading stories into our mind before we read other passages of the Bible. So before we go back to Isaiah 43, I just want to help us upload a story into our mind and keep this in mind as we read from Isaiah 43. And in this case, I want us to upload the story of the Exodus story. So a very quick summary of the Exodus story. God's people were in slavery in Egypt, and God, through Moses, brings the people out of slavery. But they're journeying across the desert, and at first, the Egyptians don't follow, and they think they're home free. But then they realize not only are the Egyptians following them, but in front of them is the Red Sea. So here they are, stuck in the desert with the sea in front of them and an army closing in behind. Seemingly, they don't have anywhere to go. But God makes a way. He parts the sea, and they walk through it to safety. So with that story in mind, let's read Isaiah 43 from verse 16. This is what the Lord says. He who made a way through the sea, a path through the mighty waters, who drew out the chariots and horses, the army and reinforcements together, and they lay there never to rise again, extinguished, snuffed out like a wick. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. The wild animals honor me, the jackals and the owls, because I provide water in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland, to give drink to my people, my chosen, the people I formed for myself, that they may proclaim my praise. So in verse 16, we see that God reminds this people of the great miracle he performed once to release them from slavery. But then he says, forget the former things. Do not dwell on them. Or in another translation, do not recall the first things and do not consider what came before. And at first, this appears to be a contradiction with what we know of the nature of God, and that he likes to remind us, and he reminds people, he tells us to remember what he has done as a sign of what he will do in the future. But here he says, forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. So should we completely forget what God has done? No. I love what author and theologian Robert Alter says about this verse. He says, those were, it is implied, great signs and wonders, speaking of the Exodus. But the miracle God is about to perform is a wholly new thing. The miracle God is about to perform is a wholly new thing. God is doing something new. He's reminding the Israelites of his great power and his track record, but he doesn't want them to be stuck there. He's going to do a new thing. For the Israelites, that miracle was that he would once again free them from captivity and bring them to the promised land, a place of peace and security that he had promised to their ancestors. The miracle was a whole community renewed and changed. The individuals would benefit from it, but it was really about the whole community. Like the miracle of the parting of the seas, it was for the whole people who represented God to humanity. So reading this and remembering who God is, knowing what he is capable of, it gives me hope. At this moment, as I grieve and as I plan to move and leave the life that we are building here, it's hard to see what God is doing. And honestly, I don't even want to think about the new thing because I just want to go back to the old thing. And I think that's a normal human emotion. God knows this. I've told him many times in the past few months. So even though I don't feel like God is doing something new, and I don't really want something new, I know deep down that God is doing something new because that's the kind of God he is, however difficult it is for me to imagine. I think, to be honest with you, it's much easier for me to imagine how the Israelites felt stuck between the sea and the army closing in than it is to believe that God will part the waters in front of me. But that's why it's so vital that we are in community in these difficult seasons, so we have people to lift us up and help us in these times. But it's also vital in these seasons that we build our faith on who God says he is and not how we feel. So my encouragement to you today is, as well as being part of community to help you love Jesus, also build your faith on who God says he is and not how you feel. Build your faith on who God says he is and not how you feel. Because our feelings, our emotions will change, but who God says he is will not change. And that building of our faith, building of that foundation, that can happen in the difficult seasons. Undoubtedly, people somehow manage to do that. But I'm grateful that both Dani and I did that building in the good season. We laid that foundation in the good times. I'm grateful for the mornings that I spent with a coffee, sat looking at our garden back in Longstanton in Cambridge, looking out and just working my way through the Bible, for the Bible studies that I did with friends. I'm grateful for C3, the community, the church that Dani and I attended, where we served and we both grew up spiritually surrounded by community. I'm grateful for the hours that I spent listening to the Bible Project podcast, for the hours that Dani spent journaling and reading as part of the She Reads Truth community. We both had to find our own ways of connecting with God, and that changed over time. Finding ways to study and grow in our faith. But I'm so grateful that we did, because it set the foundation that helped our faith survive the fires and the waters around us. Building our foundation takes time, it takes effort, it takes intentionality, and it looks different for everyone. But what I think is universal is that we want to spend time with the people, or I guess even the things that we love. And as Dani said, I just love Jesus. So you find time to spend with him. Before I close today, I want to share another quick story that gives you an insight into the way Dani's mind worked. When we were first getting to know each other, I was a new Christian. I was confused and unsure about all the things that were changing in my life, or the priorities that were shifting. And I was kind of sharing this to Dani and said, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what to do next. And she shared this verse with me. Matthew 6:33. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Seek first his kingdom. I guess the Dani paraphrase is, just love Jesus. And so I'll close by taking us back to 2022, and this is actually, I'm just going to read verbatim the end of the message that I shared with our young adults community. I thought about reworking it and changing it, but I thought, actually, isn't it good to share the words that from that good season can hopefully give some encouragement today, maybe to you facing a difficult season. The original context was around a season of change and renewal in our church, but I think that kind of new season idea fits here in Boston as we go into the summer. Praise God. I think it fits that we talk about a new season and a season of renewal. So this is from Isaiah 43:19, and then I'll just read the end of that message I shared. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. I have never been to a desert wilderness. I can only imagine how thirsty you must get, desperate for a sip of water. Water is life, and that's what God is doing, bringing life. And we pray today that he brings revival prophetically as we cross over the waters into the new season. It might not look straightforward and an easy path, but that's why God starts with, do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. Walking into the new, crossing over, stepping into all God is calling us, you too. That doesn't mean it will be plain sailing. It doesn't mean it will be simple. But when we walk with God through the waters, the rivers, and the fires, they will not consume us. Because you are walking with the Creator, the rivers, the fires, and the waters. Life is going to throw tough situations at us. But how we choose to face them is our choice. Alone or with God. I don't know about you, but I choose to face them with God. The Creator, the Redeemer, the Holy One.
This is the word of the Lord, your Creator. I am the God who stood before the world was framed. I am the first, the last, and everything between. I will be future who could know these things for me. So don't fear, I will be your song. Love, sing, oh barren land. Water is coming to the thirsty, though you are. I am the well, draw from me, I will provide. Oh, this is the word of the Lord, your Creator. I stand from age to age, the ancient of days. I am the Holy One, the fairest of 10,000. And all who call upon my name, they shall be saved. So don't fear, no, I will be your song. Oh, giving beauty for your ashes, joy for your sadness and mourning. 'Cause I'm a river in the desert, pouring my spirit to the broken, giving beauty for your ashes, joy for your sadness and mourning. 'Cause I'm a river in the desert, pouring my spirit, pouring my giving beauty for your ashes, joy for your sadness and mourning. Heaven's open, heaven's open, heaven's open, heaven's open, heaven's open, heaven's open. You're making waves in the wilderness. He's making rivers in the desert. He's making waves in the wilderness. He's making rivers in the desert. He's making waves in the wilderness. He's making rivers in the desert. He's making waves in the wilderness. Oh, you are. He's making rivers in the desert. You are. You're making waves in the wilderness. You are. You are the river in the desert. You are. You are the way in the wilderness. You are. You are the river in the desert. You're making waves in the wilderness. You are the river in the desert. You are the way in the wilderness. Yes, you are. You are the river in the desert. Oh, sing, sing, oh barren land. Water is coming to the thirsty. Though you are empty, I am the well. Draw from me, I will provide. Oh, sing, oh barren land. Water is coming to the thirsty. Though you are empty, I am the well. Draw from me, I will provide. Oh, we will draw from you, I will provide.
I just want to say, first of all, thanks, Brad, for sharing. It's amazing. I know our community is really blessed. I really appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability and your willingness to share with us. We're going to come to a time in our gathering, called communion. And I think it's really fitting to come to this moment now because I think Brad's message really kind of set the table for really what communion is, what it's supposed to be for us. Communion is this moment where we reflect on the life and the death and the resurrection of Jesus, but it's a moment of remembrance. It's a moment where we remember God's faithfulness when it was incredibly costly to him, when it cost him everything. And even as Jesus is establishing this concept of communion, as he's in an upper room with his followers and his disciples, as he takes bread, as he takes juice, as he passes it to them, the thing that he says is, do this in remembrance. Do this to remember me. One of the reasons we do this every week, that we participate in communion, that we reflect on Jesus' death and resurrection every week, is like Brad said, it's so easy to forget. It's easy to forget in moments of brokenness. So we establish a tradition as a community to help us remember in good times and in bad. We come together as a church to remember in our most beautiful moments and our most broken moments of God's kind of like the peak or the climax of his faithfulness, but also it set the table to be reminded that he continues to be faithful to us over and over again. And there's a reason we do it as a community. Like Brett said, there's a reason we come together and do this together, because there are moments where it is hard for us to remember, and there are moments where we might remember, but it doesn't feel like it is true. When we come together as a church, as a group of people, we stand side by side with each other, because when I can't remember, I need the church to help remember for me. When you can't remember, we need people around us to help us remember for us. When we say the words, or we eat the bread, or we drink the juice, but it just doesn't feel like God is near, we can look around and we see the church. The church reminds us that he is. The church reminds us that God has drawn near to us, and it does so by drawing close together. I think it looked like we already passed out communion cups. If you didn't get one, just kind of like raise your hand. We'll make sure you get one, but it seems like everybody's gotten one. I'm going to ask you just to kind of hold on to those. I'll come back out. We'll take communion together in a few minutes as a church. But I just also want you to know, wherever you find yourself right now, maybe you're coming to here, and communion is going to be a really beautiful moment for you. You have felt God's faithfulness. You have seen him be faithful recently. And I thank God for that. The church needs you. The church needs you now, because I know there's also people in this room that doesn't feel true for. I know there's people in here who are struggling, who feel broken, feel like God is distant. We might take communion, but it feels more like because it's rote or routine or ritual, and not because we truly are remembering this moment where God drew near, and how it's a reflection of him continuing to do that. I want you to know if that is you, that's okay. I'm really grateful that you're here. You have others around you who want to lift you up, care about you, who want to speak truth to you, even if it doesn't feel real. Not in a like judgmental way, or not because like we want you to believe this, but because we love you. We want our faith to be your faith when it feels like you don't have any of your own. I say that because after we take communion together, if that is you, if you have someone, or if you have something that you just want someone to pray with you or pray for you about, myself and Matt, who's one of our other pastors, is going to be just kind of in the back. We would love to just take some time to pray together. Like I said, to pray with you, to pray for you, to let you know in this journey towards this remembrance, you're not alone. Wherever you find yourself on that journey, it's okay. Because I know wherever you find yourself on that journey, God is drawn near. Let's take a few moments to remember that.
Great is thy faithfulness, O God, my Father. There is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not, thy compassions, they fail not. As thou hast been, thou forever will be. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord,
Can everybody just stand together? At the top of your cup, there's a kind of clear plastic tab. Underneath it's like a wafer, a little piece of bread, or a cracker. The night Jesus was betrayed, he was in a room with his followers, his disciples. And he took bread and he broke it and he passed it to them. And they told them when they ate together to remember his body that would be broken for them. And there's another tab underneath that, a silver one. It opens to some juice. Jesus took juice or wine and he poured it and he passed it to them. He told them when they drank together to remember his blood poured out for the forgiveness of sins. Amen. I'm going to ask everybody just to continue to stand. We're going to sing together now.
Come together, strangers, neighbors, our blood is one. Children, generations of every nation, a kingdom come. So don't let your heart be troubled. Hold your head up high, don't fear no evil. Fix your eyes on this one truth. God is madly in love with you. So take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where our help comes from. Sweet light on the rivers, let the praise go on.
If you guys want to take a seat for a moment, just have a quick announcement. At Reunion, our mission is to support the poor, the marginalized, and those without power. We strive to correct what is wrong and seek nothing less than shalom, the flourishing and welfare of our city and the world that God intended to create with all that He had made. One way that your generosity has supported the work and mission of Reunion is through the Reunion Community Grant. So for those of you who don't know, these funds are specifically for those who are part of the Reunion family and seek financial support for their organization or their work that shares our vision for missions. Today, we are deeply honored to announce that this grant will be renamed in the memory of Dani Cross. Dani's heart and passion for justice was evident to all those around her. She was vocal in her beliefs and was an avid supporter of Reunion's mission. In Dani's honor and memory, the Reunion Community Grant will now be known as the Dani Cross Community Grant. We believe this dedication will carry forward Dani's legacy of justice and compassion. Thank you for your continued generosity and commitment to our shared mission. And now for a benediction. Benediction is a prayer, ascending, asking God for help and protection. Or at this time, Brad, if you'll come on the stage with me, we'll do our benediction. For those who are lost, we mourn. For those that are broken, we cry out. With those who weep, we weep. Suffering servant, hear our prayer. For those who are alone, we invite your presence. For all who are trapped, we ask for your freedom. For all who are grieving, we long for your comfort. May we endure this walk of life filled with disappointments, unfilled hopes, missteps, and weakness with God and this community. Let us leave today in hope that in the midst of our wilderness, God is doing a new thing, making a path for us. Fully aware that there will be tall hills and deep ravines ahead. May our enduring faith in God be bigger than any trial we encounter, wherever we may go or where God may lead us. Cling to the one we can make all things new. In the name of God, the perfect parent, Jesus, a reminder of God's love, and in the strength of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace and live the church, and hope to see you at Kenny Park. Take care.